So this system that we're going to be getting into today is the skeletal system. And sometimes I think we take this system for granted because we don't always see it. I know we have bones and stuff going on inside our body, but there's a lot of really important functions to the skeletal system that we're going to get into, and also how we move and how come our bones don't just fall apart from one another. There's a whole lot of things underneath the surface that we probably don't realize. So let's check it out. So the first thing I want to talk about is what's the point of a skeletal system? So there's three really main jobs of our bones. All right. So the first is that it basically gives us our shape and our support. So what I mean by that is you can see these pictures here. If we had no bones, we would be this crazy ball of mush. All right. So the fact that we have bones gives us the shape that we are. Okay. So no bones, no shape. And so basically, when you look at someone's skeleton, you get the idea of what that animal or person or whatever, what their shape was, because this is what it provides for us, okay? So it gives us the shape and support, and then ultimately we have skin and we have muscles kind of all around it. Second is that it protects our organs, all right? So right now, if you hit your chest, you're not poking your heart, right? That would be terrible. You're not poking your lungs, that would be really bad too. You can't poke your brain. So our bones are there for one of the main reasons is to protect the organs, so we can't poke them and damage them in any big way. So again, the ribs is a big one because it protects our lungs and our heart and our skull. Again, so that's one of the main reasons that we have our bones. And the third is that it makes our blood cells. Okay, deep down inside our bone, in the bone marrow, is where almost all our red blood cells and our white blood cells, even our platelets are also, they're produced. So if you've ever actually cracked open a bone, hopefully not your own, right? But if you ever cracked open a bone while cooking or anything, you'll see inside of this reddish goop that is the bone marrow, because one of their main jobs is to make lots and lots of blood for our body. Because bone cells are dying all the time, or you might bleed and lose blood cells, so we always need to be making more and more new blood cells. All right, so now we're getting into joints. So when I say joints, that's the reason that we can move, is because this bone is connected to this bone, but we're not one big stiff arm, we can move it, right? So there's different kinds of joints, there's different ways we can move in our body, so we're gonna kind of get into that. So the first is what a joint is. It's a spot where two bones meet, okay? And it ultimately allows some sort of movement. There are three main types of joints. There's actually a handful of different more that we're not going to get into, but there's three main types of movable joints that I want you guys to know. So the first is called a ball and socket joint. And so you can kind of see why it has the name it does, is because this spot here where two bones come together, there's really a ball, and then almost inside of it is this sort of socket that it rotates. So there's two main spots that we have that inside of our body. We have that in our hip, so you can move your leg, and we also have it in our shoulder. So these are the two main spots we have what's called a ball and socket joint. And the reason that they're so beneficial to us is the first is that it gives you a great range of motion. So I can move my arm up and down and left and right. So having a ball and socket joint really allows you to kind of have a whole lot of motion. That's one of the main benefits of it. Like I said, the two main examples would be in your shoulders and also in your hips, the way where your femur connects to your pelvis. All right, the second type of joint is called the hinge joint. So hopefully you've heard the word hinge before when you've thought of a door and a door hinge. It's exactly the same as a door hinge. So you're gonna see right now in a second, this picture after the bone, it shows what a hinge is basically like. So just like a door hinge. So it's kind of almost opens up and down like this. So the main benefit of a hinge joint is that it really allows you strong back and forth movement, good support. The same way a door, I said you could open and shut. You can't really twist a door and move it up and down, but it's really good at opening and closing. So that's kind of the main idea of a hinge joint. And so the two main spots we have a hinge joint are here in our elbow, okay? So we can easily hold a lot of things and our arm's not gonna break, come off the socket, gives lots of support, and also in our knee. We can move it forward and back. Again, think when you kick anything, it's not gonna hopefully damage it when you do that, okay? So here are the two main examples of our hinge joint. The third joint that we have, the main movable joint, is called a pivot joint. So if you play basketball at all, you kind of know what a pivot means. It kind of almost means to rotate in certain ways, right? You can have one foot down on the ground, you can rotate. So it's kind of similar. So pivot, you can kind of see the way a pivot works is it has almost a pole, and then it rotates around it. So there's two main places we have them, and that's in our neck. So if you think of it, you can turn your neck pretty darn far in both directions. So it really allows you a nice twisting or rotation motion. So the main benefit of a pivot joint is, like I said, it allows you a very efficient rotation or twisting, if that helps you think of it. It really allows efficient twisting. And the other main spot, I know we said we have your elbow for here, but there's another bone here that allows you to turn. So if you take your hand out right now, you can turn it so your hand is facing up, your hand is facing, your palm is facing up, palm is facing down. You can really twist it and rotate it really efficiently. So in our forearm, there's another main pivot joint. So those are two main spots that we have, is in our neck and in our forearm, so we can easily twist it, okay? So those are the three main types of joints. So now there's a couple things we need to know, is that along with our bones and our joints, there's a couple connective tissues that are really, really essential to making sure that our skeletal system works. So ligaments. You may have heard a ligament, someone tore their ACL, right, where the L stands for ligament. So you can tear a ligament. It's pretty bad. It's pretty damaging. So what a ligament is that if you were to strip away your skin and your muscle, as gross as that sounds, you'd see that your bones are almost stuck together with these like strings. They're really strong strings. They're called ligaments. So I put a picture here of kind of in between your fingers. So you have ligaments that are run along here, all over. Okay, and then also the bottom of your foot. This is actually a picture of plantar fasciitis. If you or anyone who's ever had it, I've had it. It's pretty terrible. But basically, even below your foot, you have these ligaments that keep your bone together, and sometimes you damage them, and it's really, really painful. So your ligaments, those are the tissue that hold bone to other bones. So it keeps it connected, so your bones aren't completely loose and running around all over your body. They're stuck where they're supposed to be. And the other really important tissue that we talk about is cartilage. So I put this picture of a nose here because you can feel what cartilage feels like. So our nose is cartilage, our ear is cartilage. So you get the idea of what it is, but it's not just in our nose and our ears, it's actually a lot of times on the end of our bones too. So if you've ever seen a bone, like a chicken wing bone or anything like that, the very end actually is really smooth. It almost has this protective coating on the outsides of our bones where they kind of come together. So again, in the outside of a ball and socket joint, it's like this thin kind of filmy layer, and what it is basically it's soft and smooth, so that when your bones are moving, like right now my arm is moving, and on the end I have this cartilage, so it keeps it with low friction. Otherwise, if there's no cartilage there, it's just bone on bone, it would be like grinding up, and it would be really, really painful. So we have this cartilage on the outside of our bone that protects them and allows you to move them without your bones rubbing together. So now you know why we need skeletal system, okay? To protect our organs, give us support, and make blood cells. You know the three types of joints: hinge, pivot, and ball and socket. And you also now know why we need cartilage and why we need ligaments. And this is an overview of some of the main things of skeletal system. All right, thank you as always for watching, and see me if you ever need any help or any questions. Thanks.